Digital Content Creators presents the Networking Roundtable Discussion.
Yep. All right. So everyone, welcome. It's great to see familiar faces.
I have a little technical issues today, so bear with us.
Yep. So for those of you who are new here, welcome. We do this monthly roundtable and they've been really amazing. I really appreciate everyone showing up on time. So let me share my screen real quick. If you could all grab your devices, phones or tablets, what I want you to do is, yes, give me a thumbs up so I know you're there. If you don't have your phone handy, no worries. Just go to www.mensi.com and enter this code 8412-0896. Again, 8412-0896.
Or you can leave comments in the chat if you don't feel like, excuse me,
Yes.
any of this.
Feel free to interact, guys. So this is part 2 of our LinkedIn intervention. Last month, we had Michael Kainatsky. He talked about doing things manually on LinkedIn. And today, we're looking at the flip side, which is the automation. So I think this is going to be a hot topic, guys, because automation can either be your best friend or can get you banned from LinkedIn. So we have our expert guest, Junaid Khalid, and we will hear from him about the topic later. So guys, where are you all joining from? Can you drop it in the chat and type it in the Mentimeter? All right. England. Okay, I'm reading the results. NYC rainy. Is it rainy there?
Very hard.
England. Ecuador. All right. Chat, Pennsylvania, Colorado. Jay, take it away.
Hi, excuse me, I'm getting a cold. I'm Jan Zucker. I am the founder of Digital Content Creators, and welcome. I'm going to let my partner and associate Harry do this one today.
Yes, I'm Harry Westbrook. I'm a publisher already for 40 years, international. Met Jan, and together we decided to join our forces and see what we can do and move, especially in the publishing world, especially in the influencers world. And I just wrote a book about it called "The Influencer is the Message." And we have Casey.
So let's move on.
So you take over now, yeah?
Yep.
That's how it should
meet our expert guest, Junaid Khalid.
Thank you, Casey. Yeah, I'll take it from here. Hi, everyone. So we are going to be talking about LinkedIn today, but just to give you a bit of a background about myself, I'm a journalist, and by that I mean in like its truest form. I worked in tech, like research, development, AI, cybersecurity, blockchain, any tech that you can think of. I've probably worked in that at least like in a professional capacity. Then I worked in sales for about 3 years. I worked in marketing, and when I say marketing, I don't mean just like advertisements or one particular channel. I've done marketing on Reddit, SEO, articles, blogs, Medium, YouTube videos, every channel that you can think of. I basically touched that to see how it works or reacts for my particular business. But of course, this session is focused on LinkedIn, so I will be sharing what I've observed in the last year or two while trying to make my business work through LinkedIn. But quick disclaimer over here, LinkedIn is not the sole acquisition channel for my business. It never has been, and that's simply not my approach. Some of you today might want to use LinkedIn as the sole acquisition channel, and that's fine. But in my case, I like to sort of diversify in that sense and see where majority of my audience is coming from. Now, without further ado, I think we can start off with the two questions that we have because I want to understand a few things before we go into a bit of a monologue from my side. Won't be long, but
So that was the problem we had. We can't get rid of the
Yeah.
game.
okay.
Yeah, let's do
Sorry.
the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to
Manually.
suggest that we do it the old school way. I think we have a lot of people on video, so
The
we can just
question
do
is,
the old school show of hands to say yes or no. The first one is basically, I just want to understand whichever service is your flagship service, right? People usually have multiple offerings, but the one which is the most prominent one that you're pushing out right now could be a product, could be a service. How long have you been doing that for? You don't need to mention years. For now, you can just say yes or no if it has been at least 1 year since you've been doing that, at least 1 year. So that's like a yes from pretty much everyone, but I still had to ask so that I don't assume anything. Um, I see a question from Eric, by the way. Eric, that's Ertiqah. It's a bit hard to pronounce. That's an Arabic word, by the way. Intentionally hard to pronounce. Right. Okay. Perfect. I think that's pretty much everyone with a show of hands. The second question was this one might feel a bit personal, but it's going to be kind of important because of the recommendation that I'm going to make next regarding how you should approach LinkedIn as a channel. And that question is, have you been
nope,
Have you made more
I'm gonna
than
drop it in the chat.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry, I was reading the chat that
So is your income greater than $5,000 per month?
you don't have to answer, of course, if you don't want to, but it's only a parameter of what he's gonna say next.
Yes.
but that's for your current service. The one like overall your business might be doing any amount of money, but the one that you're mainly trying to sort of sell or sell through LinkedIn in particular, is that one doing 5K or above right now?
Okay, so most of them are no and a couple of yeses.
That's good. And I think we can move on to the next part. So the reason why I was asking that is because in the last year and a half, have basically deduced that you simply, as a business owner, cannot be on LinkedIn as much as people would like to suggest that you be because you're not a creator at the end of the day, right? You're not looking for followers or have like a media presence from that perspective. You have a service, you have a product, and delivery is basically what generates the revenue for you. So you can be active, but there's a certain limit to the amount of time that you can spend on LinkedIn. If you would look at the story of pretty much everyone who has 100,000 or more followers on LinkedIn, at some point they have made a post where they have mentioned that they were basically on LinkedIn 8 hours every single day. I, for myself, cannot imagine spending even single day in a week where I am on LinkedIn 8 hours in a single day. And my flagship product is about LinkedIn. And I still can't imagine doing that. So essentially, what you need to do is treat LinkedIn like a project, right? With set parameters, a set budget, set milestones, and have basically realistic expectations in terms of what you can achieve in a given timeline. So the first 1 month, first 3 months, first 6 months, 12 months, so on and so forth. What your goals basically are with that, and then basically just go through with that. And the ideal scenario, which I have basically come to in the last 4 5-ish months, is that you need to be able to someone is taking care of marketing, or maybe you have a contractor who's assisting in some capacity with that, or with sales, or with any different aspects of your business, you need to have a set of tools that you're going to need for this project, as well as consult with whoever you need to, or sign up to any email courses. There's like plenty of free resources available for that. But yeah, ultimately you have to treat it like a project. And if you're making 5,000 or above across your business altogether, that means you basically are going to have sufficient funds available to go for a 6 months or a 12 months long project, which is basically LinkedIn. Next slide, Casey. So Jan was asking me a question just before this session started, and it was about the LinkedIn algorithm changing. Jan, can you repeat that question about what kind of activities?
So I read an article today about how the marketing director of LinkedIn is adamant about it being more than a business platform. It's a platform for authors, it said. It's a platform for news. It's a platform for travel. A platform for basically anything as long as it's done through a professional lens. Now, personally, I've spent a lot of time on LinkedIn over the last number of years, and I hate it. But I know I need it for certain things. You have to be, as Junaid said, I have now come to a pattern where I just do it and I see increases weekly, and it's recent, but it's become more than what it started out to be. It's really now a social media platform as much as anything else, and that's the direction it wants to go. It wants people to stay on it, and so they can sell more advertising money.
That is true. That's going to be the goal for pretty much every social media, I would say. By the way, for those of you who can multitask, I've dropped the link to my LinkedIn profile. What I want you to do is go as far back as maybe the last 3-4 months of posts and keep an eye out on the number of engagements that you see on each post. You'll see a great amount of variance. And that is 100% expected because I do not have an engagement pod. That means sometimes when I make a post which is like really bad, no one is going to care about that, which happens, quite natural. Whereas on the other hand, when I actually have something valuable to say and people like that, people engage with that, yes, that one crosses 50,000 impressions, that one has a lot of engagements. But the moment the next post is not as good, it does not get engagement. So that varies. That means you have to increase the number of shots that you make. Pretty much a volume game for anyone who's approaching LinkedIn in a natural fashion. You would have noticed in like a lot of people's cases where they're making a post and you notice that they always have like 200 likes and 250 comments and so on and so forth, like always in the same ballpark. These people have engagement pods, and LinkedIn actually throttles that. I believe I mentioned after the meeting started, but in case I mentioned before the meeting, but the main thing is that since Q1 of 2025, LinkedIn's algorithm has actually improved quite a bit in terms of finding the right audience for your post as long as you guide it accurately. And same is the case for these pods. One thing that they don't share even in their screenshots is the number of impressions, because LinkedIn is actively limiting that. So you
Can
want to
I ask a
go
question? I'm sorry,
yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt. So I can post something. I have 16,000 some odd followers, 2,500 newsletter subscribers on LinkedIn. And yesterday we posted something that was important for authors. It was the start of NaNoWriMo, which is an important worldwide event. It's National Novel Writing Month, in case people don't know about it. And I'm in the publishing business as well as in the e-learning business. So it's an important day, important month for people. It's 50,000 words in 30 days is the goal. Doesn't have to be pretty. So I posted it. It got 63 impressions. Out of my 16,000 some odd, 63 people saw it. I don't understand. Wait 1 second. So I commented on a post the other day about a whale protecting a diver from a shark, and it got 860 impressions. All I do is
What's the
repost it.
difference that you see between these two posts? You've basically given the answer yourself. Like,
I'm
what's the
sorry?
difference between these two posts? If you had to analyze these two posts, like the topic, what's the difference that you see between the two?
Well, one was a sympathetic or empathetic post, and one was a factual post.
That's true. So first one is alienating to like a wide number of people. The second one is like very generic. So it's same as a billboard quote, right? You put that in, everyone's going to resonate with that. More people are likely to see it, like it, repost it potentially, and stuff like that. But I can assure you one thing, which is those kind of posts never bring you leads. They're never good for your business. They do not increase trust. They do not have any kind of impact from that perspective. So for those of you who might have seen like the last 3 months of post and seen the variance, I'll give you a few numbers from behind the scenes. So what you're seeing, uh, there were I think about 10 posts which crossed like 10,000 impressions, but you would not have been able to tell that based on the number of engagements. There's another one which was I think 60,000 impressions. It was more than 50. I'm not sure where it stagnated because I stopped checking afterwards. It had about 55 or 60 engagements in total, but those engagements were like very in depth. It brought me zero leads. Then there were about three which had about 500 to 2,000 impressions, and they had about 7 to 12 engagements. They were very, very, very oddly specific. Those ones got me about, I think, 5 DMs, and every single profile view that they brought, which were about, I think, 13 in total, they were very specific people because when I opened their profile, I noticed right away that these people are facing the exact problem that I mentioned in my post. So
So
this
basically, it's
is
pain and gain, right? So you offered a solution to their pain.
exactly. And that naturally means your post is not going to be relevant for everyone. So you can either go to LinkedIn to perform, or you can go there to basically operate your business or get leads in. Some posts perform good, others don't, perfectly fine. Your ultimate goal should be that you want to have by the end of the next 365 days, you want to have 365 posts over there. That means you'll get data. Data in terms of what works, what does not work, what you want to do more of, and double down on that. And that's pretty much how I would say every project more or less works. um, and like even in terms of like when we first did any jobs, we did not expect to become the CEO of that company in the first 1 year or something. So we should not expect that our posts are going to go viral in the first year or so. They might, some might, but that should never be the goal. You have to one thing, because I did see the previous session by the way with Michael, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, so
One thing which he mentioned, which was super accurate, is that you have to be very, very, very absolutely clear with what your goal is with LinkedIn. If you want to go viral, that's a different pathway. And I'll tell you that. Simplest way to go viral on any social media platform. Talk about YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Pick what's trendy. So, for example, OpenAI launches a new model. Just go talk about that every single day. Repeat that. Or whichever niche you want to dominate, AI, fashion, music, whatever. Whatever is new in the market, simply only talk about that. Hire one person or buy a Canva subscription, put that in like a nice visual, and every time there's something new in that niche, post about that.
so
For
one,
LinkedIn,
one comment on that. I also heard, I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but if I don't, I forget if
no,
I
please.
don't. So one thing I heard was that LinkedIn News, if you quote their news, they
Yeah.
like that because that brings people into their news and their platform.
Um,
I'm just
the
reading what
outcome,
I mean, I could
yeah.
go on and it could be 10,000 different ways that people think LinkedIn works.
No, no, no. The outcome is correct. The reasoning is almost there, I would say. Like LinkedIn News is a good way to find out what's trending on LinkedIn or what LinkedIn thinks is trending. So, yes, they do push that information. So, I'll give you another example. I'm not sure if that post was within this time range. I think that was like 5 months ago. I made like 3 posts to test exactly this hypothesis with LinkedIn News, which was that LinkedIn pushes them more. So what I noticed was there was a post I made about a topic in LinkedIn News. It had nothing to do with the kind of things that I talk about in general on my LinkedIn. It got about 4,000, 4,500 impressions. It had 6 engagements because it the post made no sense. It was like completely out of my depth, out of my niche, and none of my network could basically relate with that. But LinkedIn kept pushing it, and it happened with like 3 posts. Of course, some of them did get engagement ultimately, like maybe 20 reactions and these kind of things. But there was one which had, I think, 7 or 8 reactions, and it still got like 4,000, 4,500 impressions, and so on. So if you're talking about things in the LinkedIn news, you can get a lot of impressions, get a lot of new people in, but then you're going to fall in the same problem which basically Jan has, which is he has a huge network. I'm going to give, by the way, another example of a client that I had about 2 months ago. Jan's problem basically is that he has a network of 16,000 people who are all over the place, right? Different countries, different niches, different backgrounds, completely like even if he wanted to make a service for these people specifically, he can't because they don't have a common shared trait. Like even if they all had been from sales or marketing or something they had in common, he could build a new service, for example, around them, and that would have killed.
So saying, oh, wait a minute. So saying that, I am now getting rid of all of those contacts, 25 a day. And I'm not adding any new contacts other than people who are either going to be potential clients, a
Yeah,
potential thought leader, or a potential vendor. I
exactly what
have
everyone
limited
should do.
myself.
And one thing that I basically say is that if you have less than 1,000 connections on LinkedIn and you've never basically taken LinkedIn seriously in the past, you're basically in luck because majority of the people they face the same problem that Jan does, and I did as well, quite frankly. I've even to this stage, I have to like at least once in a month sit down and move 200 to 500 connections in like one go, get shadow banned by LinkedIn for a week or two, depends on how they're feeling that week, and then yeah. But if you have 1,000 connections, that means you can curate your network really well because let me give you this example. So there was this one person that I was helping out, and they had about, I think, 25,000, 26,000 connections. He did not know a single one of them. No, that's a hyperbole and absolutely inaccurate. But you can say like 99% of the people, like let's say if there were 25,000 followers, he did not know 24,000 of them. So they were random people. But one thing they shared in common was they all were from the same field which he was interested in, which his service was about. So what I noticed with that particular profile is that the first post I wrote for him um, flatlined, did not have much engagement, that many reactions. Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and his engagement consistently was increasing because you could tell what content you need to write, which would be engaging for the audience. So before that, he had, I think, about 900 impressions maximum on any post, same issue as Jan. But in that month and a half that we basically, I was checking out his analytics. There were about, I think, 3 or 4 posts at least which crossed 10,000 impressions, and I think there was one which crossed like 100 engagements in total, all from their ICP. So that can be a very strong punch or strength, basically, if you have a lot of connections, but they're all from a specific niche, and that niche is where what your ICP is basically based in.
So,
So
Junaid,
now
we
coming
need to
back,
go into a breakout room. So
All right.
let's hear everybody. Let them talk about what they're doing, and when you get out, we'd like somebody to report on what you talked about. Casey will pick somebody. How's that? Okay.
Yes. So guys, let's time for our first breakout room discussion. Here's your first question. How are you currently handling your LinkedIn strategy and has it been effective? So you have 10 minutes. Make sure everyone gets a chance to speak and enjoy. Welcome back. See Jan, Larry, Catherine. Okay. All right, everyone's back. Now let's hear what you've discussed. All right, I'm gonna call someone from each room to discuss what they've talked about. All right, Catherine, can you share something about what you talked?
Oh, I just came into the dairy shed. So sorry if you can't see me really well. Yes, we had a really good discussion. Everyone went around the room to share what they experienced, and the feedback from our speaker was that, you know, using LinkedIn Navigator is a good tool to use in the beginning. It'll help you generate some clients and some revenue. And as a result of that, then you can figure out other strategies that you're using that you want to be able to use on LinkedIn to be able to get clients.
Nothing? All right. How about David? Can you share, David?
Yes, well, we talked a little bit about our use of LinkedIn and the effect of posting consistently, the importance of consistency. And Harry was and Jan were just getting into the I guess the nuances of having how many followers and how many connections you have. And I think that's a fair summary. Casey?
All right, thanks. Thanks, David. How about Eric? Eric, what did you talk about during your breakout room? I'm sorry, you're muted, Eric.
Sorry, that none of us are using it effectively and it's too confusing. And then a couple questions came up about, are connections equal to followers? If you're going to glean your list, what do you glean? How can you target your list? For example, if somebody's in IT, who is their ideal like the idea is, like, if I've in the beginning, LinkedIn said, go get as many people as you can, which was LinkedIn's land grab. Now I've got all these people that are causing my algorithm to decline instead of elevate. So what the real question, and I think everybody in the group would probably appreciate, is what are the practical steps to elevating your algorithm by reducing your contacts/followers, so the impressions that you're making are actually creating engagement, which are creating momentum for the next post/contribution.
I think that's a question which basically pretty much covers the whole spectrum. And I'll take it from the top, which is you need to treat it like a project, LinkedIn as a whole, because everyone is going to enter LinkedIn with a different set of problems. Jan has a different one, Eric might have a different one, and so on and so forth. If you go around the room, everyone is going to start from a different entry point, right? And ideally, what you want to do is just like every other project that you do, you don't just go like, okay, I know what I'm going to do for the next 7 days, I'm jumping in. No, you map out what your year is going to look like. So, for example, I'll take Eric, for example, the point you mentioned. Let's say you have 10,000 followers, and 8,000 of them are people who you do not know, or people that you added from like old days when LinkedIn actually promoted the fact that you should have a lot of followers. And a lot of those people from that time basically have this in their headlines as well, like 27,000 plus followers on LinkedIn or stuff like that, because it was a badge of honor, just like LinkedIn top voice and so on and so forth. And then that got replicated and so on. So in your project, if you have 10,000 followers and you want to remove 8,000 and you want to replace them with 8,000 new ones, you're basically looking at two action items. First one is you need to remove a certain number of people from your network every week or every day. But that number should not be more than the number which LinkedIn treats as bot activity, which is about 150 actions per day. And LinkedIn is really stupid when it comes to that. I'm going to say that very frankly, because you would actually notice a lot of people saying the same thing who are doing lead magnets. So that let's say someone gets like 2,000 comments under their post, and now they have to DM them. Even if they DM them manually, 2,000 people, LinkedIn flags them, shadow bans them for 2 weeks, because their detection mechanism for that is so badly written that they cannot understand when an action is manual and when it's actually like some sort of automation. But in any case, first step would be, of course, removing the connections at a speed that makes sense, that does not get you flagged as some sort of like a bot or something. Second is you want to replace them with new people who basically are in your ICP. So that solves that one problem that you would have in your LinkedIn account. For example, other people might have other different problems. Second thing, which I mentioned in my breakout room as well, I'm sorry I wasn't able to provide that context before the question was asked, which is if you have been doing what you're doing for at least 1 year, that means you have made at least 1, 2, 3, 10, 100, 1,000 sales. Even if you're not right now at $5,000 per month with that particular service, you are somewhere. You know people who buy, you know the ideal customer profile. You likely, even if you don't have this in a documented form, you do have in your mind some rough traits through which, for example, if I take you through 100 LinkedIn profiles, you'd be able to tell, okay, this guy is not going to buy, this one, maybe, this person, yeah.
So if you've ever called one of those remote help desks and they start with a problem and they have to go through the script of walking through, and I've run those help desks for major corporations, and you can't get the person to accelerate to question number 10 because they've been told they have to check each box. I feel like we need to go all the way back to question number 1, almost, do you have a LinkedIn account? Does your profile match? You've jumped in some ways all the way down to question number 42. And I still am trying to figure out, like, do connections equal followers, and which do I need to glean first? Like, do I turn on the
Yeah.
power or do I plug in the computer first?
Connections and followers, they're not equivalent. Followers is something which, I mean, I could go and follow you even if you don't accept my connection request. So you can't really do much about that except for maybe blocking me. So you don't have much power over there. Connections is the main thing because that indicates you accepted that part. You said that you know this person and you are in that space or that niche. So you
So
intentionally
connections
gave
are
a
driving down my algorithm.
yeah.
So if I was going to spend an hour today, it would be gleaning connections.
Don't do that in a single hour because the reason why I am currently shadow banned is exactly that.
Okay, if I was going to spend time today, it would be focused on connections, deleting
make new ones, that's
obsolete
fine.
connections, and monitoring new connection requests so that they were within my profile.
They were within
Yeah,
your
that's true.
scope of work that you would want to either use as a client or can use as a client, a reference, or a vendor for whatever. But it has to be in your circle. It doesn't have to be someone who wants to create an AI system for your business. I get
So
50
there's
of those every
so
day.
in one way, there's no value in me connecting with you, Jared, Jahad.
With me?
No,
Oh,
Jahad. I know I mispronounced that.
Junaid. So he has
Oh, yeah, referring to me. Sorry. Yeah.
some incredible
Yeah.
tools though.
But connecting with him, he's not going to engage in my content unless it's intentional
Exactly.
because he knows me.
That's true.
So he's going to drive down my algorithm. No matter
That
the
is
fact
true.
that you
And
may be Serena Williams on social media, you're of no value to me.
That's correct.
and you have basically summarized the point which I'm trying to make exactly. So doesn't matter if the person you know is a celebrity, like the example that you quoted, or a colleague from HR in the past. If HR is not your niche, that person is not really contributing all that much to your network right now with your content or anything else. So removing connections, adding new connections. Third one is that you go to your feed and you clean your feed. What I mean by that is go to LinkedIn search, look for keywords which you would imagine that your ICP would be mentioning in their posts. Look for those keywords, find posts like that, engage with them, like spend time reading those posts, like them, comment on them. Do that for a week. You'll start seeing more of those posts in your feed.
So ideally, if I had 10 contacts, 8 of them were engaging with my content, I would be in better shape than Jan, who might have
Yeah.
100
Yes.
contacts and 1 engagement.
Yes. How scary is that?
Surprisingly, yes, because LinkedIn actually, I mean, based on what I have observed, it operates on percentages. So 10 8 out of 10 is a better percentage than 2,000 out of 10,000, for example.
And then what would be the penetration of those 8 to 10 beyond the 10 because of the higher engagement?
The problem with it actually being 10 is that you won't have social proof.
But would it expand beyond those 10
It would, yeah,
because of its high
because
engagement?
you're going to basically start appearing in other people's feed as suggested post if
Okay.
you've basically gotten good amount of engagement from that niche.
So I have a larger echo with a smaller audience and a higher
Yeah.
connection rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've been
Just to
trying
put
to
this
do
in
that.
perspective, it's almost always easier to work with someone who has 1,000 LinkedIn connections in comparison to someone who has 10,000, 15,000, because they think they have a really strong LinkedIn account, whereas it's actually quite the opposite. And for the 1,000 connections, they think they have a weak account, but that one is actually like a lot easier to work with.
There's also other things that are involved with that. Branding, how your LinkedIn profile looks, what these, what the keywords are. I mean, there's a lot. We hopefully will go into that with the next roundtable. Would be the branding and how you can improve that. But there is so much that goes into this that no one.
I
But
just
branding to a blind man doesn't help. So I'm going to get all my people looking at me first.
So I think we're gonna have to skip the second breakout room, but let's go into Q&As.
Yeah, and so I didn't realize that we are pretty much at the end of the session, but this is a resource that I'd like to have you guys look at. One of the primary things which I've basically seen, at least in my case, is that if you are a business owner, 1 week you can be active on LinkedIn, the second or third one, you're going to have problems because there will be some fire that you're out there sort of taking care of, or other things, other initiatives that you have to jump into, and you won't have time for LinkedIn. So ultimately, what you need to be able to do is have someone in your team, could be a virtual assistant, your executive assistant, or a marketing associate that you might have, who's basically helping you out with that. And with Twitter, that's extremely doable. I did that myself in the last 3 months. Results are like quite good. I mentioned that on the landing page itself too. And you can do that with LinkedIn too. So what Jan mentioned, sorry, just one last point, which is the very first thing that you should always do when you're taking LinkedIn seriously is spend a disproportionate amount of time on your profile, because that's basically a landing page or your calling card essentially. So if that's looking bad, if it does not communicate what exactly is it that you do, your service, that's a bad omen, you could say. And then your posts, your DMs, your comments are what bring people to your profile. So ideally, make sure that your house is neat and clean, and then go out and invite guests. So, yeah.
All
So
right,
it's just
now
say, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Laura.
yeah, it's open season, guys. It's Q&A. So who's got questions for Junaid? Don't
So-
hold back. Ask what you
I,
really
I
want
have
to
one comment. So what Junaid taught me a while ago was that your LinkedIn profile is even more important than your website, because that's the first place that they're going to go before they even go to your website. So if they don't like that, they're not going to your website.
I have a question
Yeah, go
about
ahead.
the keywords. Can you repeat what you were saying about keywords?
Right. So, for example, if you have a good understanding of who your buyers are for your service or product, then you want to basically reverse engineer the kind of things that they likely talk about. For example, if your buyers are from marketing niche, they're likely talking about potentially SEO, meta ads, so on and so forth. You want to search for those keywords and find posts which mention that. And then you want to intentionally only engage with that content for at least 1 week. 1 week later, when you come back to your normal LinkedIn feed, it's going to be full of posts which basically are about that topic. So the good and bad thing about pretty much all the social media channels right now is that they have echo chambers. You would have noticed that on YouTube. You watch a video, let's say you're watching, for example, a video on cars, you're going to start noticing there's like more car videos, and now you're starting to get into a specific echo chamber. Same case with LinkedIn. So you want to put yourself into the echo chamber of your ICP so you're visible to them all the time. So you do that by reverse engineering the kind of post that they would be engaging with or they're likely going to be present in.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Hey, I guess that would be a
I do.
wrap.
Well, I do. Hold on. It took me a minute.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Milky. So I had a question. You talked about Sales Navigator is the best option, which is fine, but can you share some more organic ways of being able to leverage LinkedIn without having, because of course, Sales Navigator, there's a cost to that. So are there ways for engagement that you found that you can do in other organic ways other than using or in addition to Sales Navigator? Or if you don't have Sales Navigator and you don't want to use Sales Navigator until you actually see some revenue generated. What are your thoughts?
I think the normal LinkedIn search is quite good for finding the kind of people that you're looking for, which would likely be interested in the service, basically, or the product that you're selling. But once you have nailed down Sales Navigator, or I don't really mean Sales Navigator, but what I mean is basically LinkedIn DMs. That's the first thing that you should do. I mean, people would recommend that you should post 5 times a day, not 5 times a day, no one recommends that, but 5 times a week or stuff like that. You should never start with that. First thing is you get money in the door, and that the fastest way to do that is by talking to people, not by making a post and wishing someone comes in, because posting and getting people to come in through that's like a dream scenario which you get to after you've covered the stage 1, which is you actually have
Okay, so I think
people
I
in
want
the
to change
pipeline.
my question really quickly. So here's my question. I have a coaching business. I have had it off LinkedIn, but now I want to go onto LinkedIn. What are the first 3 things that I need to do to find my ideal target? I know who they are. They're young professionals, 33, in tech, having trouble getting promoted in their jobs, and they're frustrated with their manager and they're experiencing burnout. So what are 3 things that I need to do today, or just as my game plan?
First thing would be, if you already have Sales Navigator, start talking to those people, because you want to basically validate your messaging, like for your offering in particular, which message basically resonates. Second thing would be posting. So you already know like what pain points they basically have. Go into the tool that I mentioned, go into any tool, basically you can go to ChatGPT with that, have like a heart-to-heart session in terms of what you think the pain points of these people are, and ask it to make posts which, if that person, that audience of 1 reads, they will feel like you're talking about them specifically. Like, for example, I could go to LinkedIn and write a post which, if a friend of mine from, let's say, high school reads, he would know I'm talking about him, because it would be so personal. It would feel like that, even if it isn't. So you want to write content like that, even if it gets very low engagements. If it gets 3 likes, but you find 4 people who can relate to exactly that situation, that does more for your business than a post that gets you 200 reactions and everyone is like, this is not specific to me, or you get the point. So that's the second thing. Third thing, which is takes more time, is commenting on those people's feeds. So you basically want to stay top of the mind all the time. But a business owner can't do that. At least I simply can't. So that part is basically with my virtual assistant, and he's doing pretty well with that area.
I'd like to respect everyone's time. We're at the hour mark. I know it didn't go as normal, but I think it was a great session. I think there was a lot of information. And I think that we should continue this conversation with the next roundtable.
Thank you so much for your feedback. I appreciate it.
Does everybody just let us know if you have any questions, and we'll answer. All right. So thanks everybody for joining. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank you
everyone.
so much,
Thanks,
everyone.
Junaid.
See you next month.
Most welcome. See you. Bye.